So now we're going to talk to Red, who's calling in from Ohio. Red, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hello. Nice to meet all you guys. So yeah, as the screen call probably says, I wanted advice about how to come out to my parents being atheists. They're super religious, kind of similar to how Eve's parents were. I was homeschooled and all that. So pretty much the whole 9 yards with all the deep religion and stuff.
Okay, so the first thing I would ask, Red, is it important to you that you come out to them? Because there are some people that have never come out and they're able to just live their lives just fine. So if you want to make a declaration and say this is your identity, I fully support that, obviously, and we want to be in there with you. But we also want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in an unnecessary harm's way if it means that you can continue to have a relationship with them, that it's not a big deal. I'm guessing, though, it is a big deal, right?
It kind of is. It's just something that's been wrestling with me for a few weeks now. I keep having these thoughts of my parents. I don't doubt that they love me as their child. Of course, no parent would intentionally hate their child, I don't think. But my thought that I keep getting stuck with is, would they love me if they knew who I really was, or would they resent what I represented? That I identified with myself, because they're very pro-life people. They're very homophobic. I don't want anything to do with that. I kind of want to, hey, that's not cool to pretty much take away human rights from other people like that. If they knew those things about me, especially me being pro-choice now, they probably would disown me, which I don't. Honestly, I'm not scared of being disowned. I don't think that's the worst thing they can do to me.
Okay.
A little bit of context. I was abused by my parents, so I'm more afraid of other things they can do to me. I guess I just still have that bit of fear of the emotional abuse and all that.
So, Red, I will tell you this right now. I am not a licensed therapist. I am not licensed in any way to give any sort of advice on your situation. I'm going to give you my perspective, okay? And that's the best I can give for you today, okay? And then I appreciate you calling in and asking for our perspective. A perspective I have is that if you have to wonder whether your parents would still love you because you have a change in your faith, that should not be something you have to wonder. First of all, that should not be your responsibility, and shouldn't be your problem. Shouldn't even come to your mind. So I'm deeply, deeply sorry that you are having these thoughts and wondering if this is the case, because I don't believe any child of any parent should have to wonder that. Beyond that, it sounds like this change in your identity is important enough to you that you want to express that, and that's fine. But the first thing you always have to evaluate is, are you safe? And what we mean by that is, if the worst case scenario were to happen, are you financially independent? Do you have a place where you can live? Do you have other people you can go to in times of crisis? These are always the first things I tell people to ask themselves when they're thinking about this. So bringing this back to you, Red, do you feel like you would be in a safe place if you were able to talk about that?
I do feel that I am a safe place. I don't live with them anymore. I've been living by myself away from them for a while now. Okay.
So in that case, if you're safe and you're living your own life, and the consequences of them not having a relationship with you is going to affect you in a material way, then I say, yeah, it's time to have that conversation. Now, you don't just go to dinner and say, hey, by the way, I'm an atheist now. Or maybe you do if that's how you want to do it. But, this is a weird one for me because I didn't actually get to have the opportunity to do this with my parents. My parents actually found out through watching this show and then contacting me about it. But I always thought in my mind what I would want to do is have a sit-down conversation and say, hey, I want to tell you something that's really important to me, that values very much to me, that I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on, and that I'm telling you because I trust you and respect you, And I want you to know that this is who I am, because they can't change who you are. You know, no matter what our parents' influences are on us, you're still your own person. So it's important to have that boundary line as well, and setting the tone in that conversation. Say, hey, this is who I am, and I'm not interested in changing this right now. Like, I think that's important to say too, because the first thing they might say is to try to convince you otherwise. But I would actually say, no, you should start off with that boundary line and say, maybe if you're open to conversation about it later, that you become open to that. But for now, right now, you're establishing yourself. You're establishing your boundaries, and you're figuring out what's best for you. And so, yeah, in my opinion, and I want Eve's take on this afterwards, is I think you should set time aside for the, take them out to dinner, or go to their place, invite them over to your place, whatever is most comfortable for you to be in, and say, like, this is what I've been thinking about, this is how I'm feeling, and this is who I am now. And the reason, especially emphasize the reason why you want to have that conversation, is not to harm them. It's not to cause them trouble, or to cause them suffering, but because you want to be honest with yourself and honest with the people around you, because that's what we all want when we talk about our identities, right? We just want to let people know who we really are. So that's my basic, like, ground rules advice with coming out for this stuff. Again, figure out why you're doing this, figure out if you're safe in talking about this, and then setting up those boundaries early on. Because this is, if they continue to have a relationship with you in your life, this will be a lifelong struggle with keeping up with those boundaries and making sure that they aren't violating that space that you've created for yourself. That was a lot coming from me. I want to switch things over to Eve. Eve, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I have a slightly different take. I'll just share, like Dan said, I'm not a licensed professional, so this isn't advice. This is what I did. I chose to write an email because I felt like it was safer for me emotionally, and also more kind to my family to give us a little space so that they had time to process and they could respond after hopefully taking some time to really take in what I said, so that I could be very intentional with how I said it. And I know that we really value, like, in-person contact and all of that, but sometimes I think we value it too much. I do think that a written letter or email can be just as powerful, if not more helpful, because it does create a little bit of a safe distance. And you can go ahead and set boundaries. I do absolutely agree that you have to have boundaries. Even if it's like, all right, here's who I am. And so that we can continue forward in a healthy relationship, let's no longer discuss politics and religion or whatever it is that you need to, and say, if these things get brought up in conversation, I will be ending the conversation until you're ready to talk about something else, whatever your boundaries look like. But that would be my take on that.
I'm hitting myself right now because you're absolutely right. I don't know why I didn't bring this option up, but yes, obviously writing a letter is a great way to simultaneously create that distance and make those boundaries while also expressing how you feel, because it's kind of like breaking up with somebody. It's like, look, you kind of have to emotionally process this, and you got to do that independently sometimes. And you're breaking away from an identity that was obviously very important to not only yourself, but to your family, as evidenced by your upbringing. So we just threw a lot of information at you, Red. What do you think?
Yeah. I do think that these are very good options for me. It's nice to see perspectives of other people who've been through the same thing or been through similar. It is a bit tough because I do have younger siblings. That's why I said it. I'm afraid of my parents emotionally manipulating me through my younger siblings, because I do still care about them. I don't care if my parents want to resent or shun me. I care more about my younger siblings than them, if I'm being honest. Not to say that I don't love my parents, but my relationship with them isn't the best, and I feel like this is going to even put even more strain on it.
Yeah.
Are your siblings still at home with your parents?
They are. They are. They're very young. There's like a 14-year difference between me and the oldest of the three, and I'm turning 23 this year. So they're actually pretty young.
Yeah.
It may, and this is, again, not to give you advice, but it may be in your better interest to, if you can, to wait, to hold off a little bit longer, and maybe even slowly start introducing some of your new beliefs or lack thereof over time and slowly start building some boundaries, because I'm the oldest. I have younger siblings, and I was really worried about losing those relationships, and I have gone through a lot with them. But it does help that they all have their own independent lives outside of my, they do work for my family's ministry, but I have been able to maintain individual relationships with them. So yeah, I think if that's at all a concern and that's more valuable to you than them knowing you're an atheist, that might be something worth holding back on for a little bit.
Kind of testing the waters with what they might accept, right?
That's a good way to put
that might be if you have the luxury of time on your side. There's some people who just want to get it all out there. That was kind of how I felt about it. I was like, one day I'm just going to let the dam break, and then the dam broke on me. But I think all of these are great perspectives to consider when making that decision. So I sincerely wish you the best, Red. I hope things work out. We do want to get to some other callers here, but one more thing I will add. I would consider getting the perspective of people who are in the live chat right now, or there's also the Atheist Community of Austin fan Discord is a great community that I frequent on there, and others as well, to kind of help you in this process, because you absolutely do not have to do it alone. In fact, I would strongly recommend you talk about it with other people. You have to talk with people in there. Excellent. Well, that's great. Well, as long as you've got a community around you, then you know that you're not alone, and you're definitely not the first person to have that conversation at 23. I literally had the same thing at the same age. So good luck to you, Red.
Yeah, wish you all the best.
Yeah, stay safe out there. And I encourage other people who are looking for that kind of advice to also kind of seek out other communities as well that can, in the Christian world, they'd say keep you accountable, but it's not keeping you accountable. It's just like talking about your feelings with, because it's obviously a very emotional time, right? Figuring out these, not only your identity, but also figuring out the spaces that you've created for yourself in your relationships going forward, because they will change. They just will. Some for the better sometimes, and sometimes you have to put up those hard walls just for your own sake.